like that. Maybe the school that you are going right now, school the Libre, is like that, no?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's what I thought. When you and I were talking about it first, I said, you should go to the school. It sounds like Sire, and I'm glad you're going there.
Yeah. Thanks to you.
Yeah, it's about you're the type of student is not afraid to take steps. You have to take certain risks. Education, one elects for himself or herself. It's not, a known track, although a lot of people do that way, but they are just following a certain track. They already know how they want to make a living. But every once in a while, you have a student that take chance, goes someplace unexpectedly and finds the energy there, and those are the kind of students usually end up still have a critical view of architecture. Years after school, they somewhat able to hold on to their critical stand and idealist position. Maybe you're that.
Thanks, I believe
Work
so.
on it. It's a lot of work. You have to give up sometimes. Stuff.
I learned that I had to give up a lot of stuff, and it's for a better future. Not a better future, but a better view of life.
It's good for you. The life shouldn't be stagnated. Architecture should not be stagnated. Architecture should move all the time. Architecture should do things, and if you are practicing architecture, you have to follow its pace. Or if it doesn't have that pace, you have to help bringing that pace into it. Some architecture is unfortunately very stagnated. And that goes from everyday architecture we are in and to all the way to star architecture, made architecture, right? And they can be also very stale too. And sometimes I look at the buildings that are getting gold medals and plaquettes and the platinum certifications and all that. I look at them; they are stagnated objects. For me, they don't move anywhere. So, as a critic, I turn my head and keep walking until I find something that interests me, like mundane things like this neighborhood, this relatively, typical LA street. It interests me because I see things in it. I look at the people who live there. I look at different vernacular aspects of this kind of spaces. Like this park is interesting in the middle of a R1 neighborhood here in LA, and they put a park in here, and this park is a good park. People use this, not today, it's an Easter day, but you see all these tables are occupied, people are playing cards. This the makeup of Glendale is 80% Armenian immigrant community, and it's more like an Eastern European lifestyle. They use these places all the time, and they don't mind to see a public space in the middle of the residential neighborhood. In most part of LA, they will say, "Oh no, it's going to bring vagrants, and it's going to be bad place, drugs, crime, and so on." But here it's yeah, we want parks so we can go play backgammon, play cards, see each other, speak our language. And this happens. It happens a lot in Latino communities, too, Hispanic communities in LA. And you go to parks in those neighborhoods, it's always used 24 hours a day. And now, though, I have to make a correction. LA became a very dense city, so an open space is used in most places. People are looking for open spaces, public spaces where they can be. I think Los Angeles is one of the most interesting cities in the world. And I'm saying this because I love Los Angeles. But seriously, it's a really interesting place from urbanistic point of view. When I came here in late 70s, second half of 70s, it was a growing city. It had, I mean, still growing in any way it can. But then it was more like a suburban feeling to it, except few neighborhoods that you went to. Downtown was always downtown, and like Santa Monica. Right now, you cannot drive through Santa Monica in 1 hour because it's so congested. But those days, it was only the retired people who were living there, senior citizen town on the beach. So as Venice was a ghetto, and you could get a place in Venice for $200 a month. And what I like about LA, over the years, it changed quite a bit and still changing. And for an architect or somebody who look at urbanism, it's a really interesting place because it's always changing. It has problems. I like cities which have problems. And, if you go to some little Midwestern town, they figured out everything. These people live here, these people live there, they don't have any problem. You drive, you buy from Best Foods or whatever, those places. And, but in LA, you have a lot of problems. There's a housing problem. In a crisis level, you have infrastructure problem. You have income equality problem. You have unemployment. You have a traffic problem. Problem over problem. And so it's a super interesting place for somebody to, who is seeking solutions to things, which we as architects try to do. We find solutions to things. Also, should go back to the first question you asked. So, make people's lives better. That's a unspoken motto of any architect. Why you study architecture? You will say, "I want to make life better." We are optimists. We don't say, we're going to burn this place or dynamite it. So we maybe. That's what brings us to architecture, makes things better. If dynamiting or burning things is going to make better life. So I see that in LA, things are always going from one place to another. There's a lot of contention, there's a lot of fights, there's a lot of difficulties, and it keeps going and keeps people like architects busy thinking all the time. That's why I like LA. Plus, of course, it's also geographically it's a beautiful city. Climatically, it's a beautiful place. It has ocean. It has urban lifestyle. It has suburban lifestyle. It has expensive things. It has cheap things. It has good food. It has bad food. It has everything. I think Tijuana is a little bit like LA.
It is.
Rather than San Diego. That's why, it's like Los Angeles being too close to San Diego. We still have a distance between us. The gated communities of Orange County all the way to San Diego. San Diego is a spick and span, conservative city, Republican. Maybe it's changing now, but you cross the border, you go to Tijuana, it's more like LA. Tijuana is more like LA than San Diego, no? So, what was the question, Hernan? Do you remember?
Why do you love LA?
Oh, why do I love LA? I told you, it's a really kind of a interesting place to be an architect, be an urban designer, be an urbanist, be somebody who thinks about built environment all the time, and recognizes and uses it every day. There are a lot of architects, they never get out from their palace. They build themselves a 5,000 square feet home somewhere in an expensive neighborhood, and they don't go out. They don't go to a place like this. We are in public park. I do this every day. I talk to busboys. I talk to people who work at McDonald's. I talk to all kinds of people. I talk to people on the street. So that's how you experience the city that you are living in. Because you are in it. You interact with it all the time. And while you are doing it, you start to discover how interesting or how beautiful the city is. So LA is, for me, that's the way I look at it. So I see its beauty. Within all the problems it has, all the identity crisis, I don't think it has identity crisis, but problems of ugliness, beauty, all that in LA. There's a lot of beauty in ugliness. Everybody complains about driving through Lincoln Boulevard. It's a quite essential, it's a commerce street. And so, the Lincoln Boulevard. Lincoln Boulevard has life. Yeah. And you just have to go one step further and see that life, and then all of a sudden you're hooked.
Yeah.
Vernon, it's an industrial part of town. You would know that we did projects there.
Yeah.
And it's a toxic place. So, seeing all facets of the city make the city worthwhile.
And you mentioned problems in Los Angeles, and what I think one of the major problems is some of the population that they use the typical word gentrification. So what does gentrification mean to you when they...
Gentrification is, I'm not going to defend gentrification. Gentrification, basically, it is coming in somewhere, bringing more money, still good part of the city, nice part of the city, available to low-income people, and the higher-income people coming in there and saying, we take this now because it's really nice, and we're going to fix it up. And they fix it up, they fuck it up, and there's nothing left except their monotonous lifestyle, and all the color of the neighborhood is gone. All the interesting sounds, lively sounds of neighborhood is gone. It turned into kind of a spick and span, boring neighborhood, basically. And so that's what gentrification is. It's an economic expansion, basically. For-profit expansion. I don't care what they say in defense of gentrification. I see it as dealing a bad, condition to people who are not able to maintain their place in the neighborhood they've been for a long time. So they're pushed somewhere else. That's what gentrification is. Even though a lot of the supporters of gentrification, there are a lot of architects, they don't see gentrification. They say, oh, it's a natural development, it's going to happen anyway. But let's go back to the fundamental question here. Is it good to cause people losing their neighborhoods, their homes, their livelihood? No. So I don't see gentrification as a positive impact to built environment, so the things look nice and manicured, and there's a lot of use in things that are broken. People use those things very well. We should look into those instead of saying, we should build something looks good, and that's when architecture starts to become uninteresting, is something you have to defend yourself from, and something that accommodates speculation. And speculation, of course, it goes into making lots of money in a short amount of time. So that's what it is. And I'm opposed to this kind of things. That's my position. I don't like to see people coming, developing certain areas and bringing consumerist sort of an aesthetic to places. And housing only certain type of people.